Most people, if asked whether they're good communicators, will automatically say yes. Unfortunately, most of us are not. And the thing about being a good communicator or not being such a great communicator is that it has very little to do with some of the things that we think it has to do with. And I know that just sounded like a little tongue twister. But here's the thing, most of us think that the reason poor communicators are not that great at communicating is because they don't have the right words or they haven't refined their message. And while those things can be important, those are not the biggest mistakes we make that lead us to failed communication. So today on this episode of Sincerely Speaking, I am going to share with you the four biggest mistakes that leaders, specifically leaders, right? Like all of us can make these mistakes, but specifically leaders that make their communication fail and not reach the people that they want to reach in the right way. Are you ready to improve your communication in just by fixing four simple things? Then stick around to this conversation of Sincerely Speaking. Let's go. Hi, welcome to Sincerely Speaking. I'm Marcia Amaro, your self-leadership coach. Now what that means is I'm here to help you rediscover your calling, tap into your greatest potential and strengths, and eliminate those things that keep getting in your way and in the way of your success. So whatever success looks like to you, whether it is in your career, in your business, in your relationships, or in your life in general, I'm here to help you get out of your own way, remove the obstacles, and elevate all of your life to the next level. If you're ready to see everything that you're capable of and see what your life can look like, I invite you to head on over to marciamara.com and set up a 30-minute clarity and confidence call where we will talk about your mission, your vision, your goals, the things that you're here on this planet to create, what might be getting in the way up until now, and some actionable, amazing ways to get out of your own way to eliminate all those obstacles and reach the level of success that you've been dreaming of. Are you ready? Are you ready for the next level? Then stick around to this conversation of Sincerely Speaking and then head on over to marciamara.com and schedule your 30-minute call. Can't wait to meet you in person. Chat soon. When I first started teaching a million years ago, I made the mistake of grabbing the textbook and trying to figure out what the content was before I thought about anything else. So I would grab the textbook and I would see, okay, today I get to teach about parts of speech. And I would learn everything there was to know about parts of speech. I would learn about the different parts of speech, how many there are, what they mean, what makes them different one from the other. And I would really dive into the information and the content that I wanted to share with my students. But it didn't matter how hard I tried. It was always like the message didn't actually reach them. I felt like I was talking to a wall and all my words were bouncing back at me. Have you ever had that experience? So I was sure that there was something that I was missing, but I just couldn't figure out what. And then I started digging into this whole aspect of communication and connecting with people and charisma and all these things that I teach to you about and how to improve my leadership at the moment as a teacher. Then I worked on improving my leadership as a parent. Then I worked on improving my leadership in a bunch of different ways. But the more I worked on these aspects of how do effective leaders communicate and what makes communication the most impactful, I realized that there are four key mistakes that a lot of leaders make specifically, but that all of us fall prey to. That if we understand why they're a mistake and we start thinking about ways to improve those four things, it will exponentially increase the way in which we communicate, how we enroll people into our vision, how our message lands with the people that we're speaking with, our audience, and the eventual result that we produce, right? The transformation that we inspire others to create in their lives, and the way in which we show up ourselves. So, in this conversation of Sincerely Speaking, I invite you to take some notes. Think about your own communication. Be really honest and really open, right? Because it's hard sometimes for us to admit that we are not complying or not doing these things that are very basic, very simple. And I am telling you ahead of time, right? Spoiler alert. Everything that I'm going to say, you know, and you've heard before. The problem is that we don't really tie it to the idea of how to improve as a communicator, especially as a leader that is intending to communicate your vision or your passion or leading your team or your family or whatever group it is that you lead in a direction that aligns with the ultimate vision that we have for them as leaders, right? So as we dive into these four things, I invite you to stop the part of your brain that is going to say, I know this already. This is old news. Stop the part of your brain that is going to say, duh, give me something new, Marcy. And stop the part of your brain that is going to say, I tried that and it didn't work. And I invite you to activate these two questions as we speak. And I've shared these two questions with you, but I think they are worth repeating because they are the most powerful questions you can ask when faced with any kind of information or with any kind of training or with any kind of experience in which you stand to learn something, right? And the two questions are, what can I learn from this and how can this work for me? What can I learn from this and how can this work for me? So when you shift from saying to yourself, oh, I know this already, and yes, wait, what can I learn? What can I learn here? Maybe I can see a different perspective on it. Maybe I can redefine a term. Maybe I can reinforce something that is going to help me move forward. Maybe I can think of new ways to implement this information. Because here's the thing, you can know a million things, but if you don't implement them, then what's the point of knowing them, right? If it was just a matter of information, we would all be fit billionaires because there's tons of information out there on how to get fit and how to become a billionaire. But very few of us are, right? One or the other. So, or both. So it's important to step out of that mindset that tells you, I already know this, right? That's called a fixed mindset. Yes, that mindset that tells you, oh, I already know it, or I can't grow past this, or I've already advanced as much as I'm gonna, that's it, I'm done, that's it. And move into the growth mindset that tells you, no, there is room for expansion. There's always something new to learn. And that says, wait, there has to be a way in which I can use this. And if I haven't used it, I haven't implemented it. If this is not what I live by on a day-to-day basis, then there's always room for growth. There's always room for improvement. So what can I learn from this and how can I use this? Do we agree? Yes? Hand to heart, promise? All right. So the first mistake, let's dive right in. The first mistake that most leaders make that affects their communication and that makes their communication poor is that they do not listen. They do not listen. Now, I understand that tradition says that leaders are supposed to be the ones who speak, and that leaders are supposed to be the ones that are heard, and that leaders are supposed to be the ones that pave the way, and therefore the ones that know the stuff, right? But I invite all of us to step out of that narrow mindset and that narrow thinking and expand our definition of leadership to being people who listen with enough intention to draw out of everybody that's around them, everybody that is in their team, everybody that is in their group of people, that their tribe that they're trying to lead, that you listen well enough to draw out of the people in front of you those ideas, notions, and innovations that you cannot think of by yourself. Right? So, in my definition of leadership, we lead, first of all, when we can lead ourselves to understand that we don't know it all, when we can lead ourselves past this need for recognition, and we can lead ourselves past this notion that says, if I'm going to be an effective leader, I have to know everything, and step into the idea that the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, they all have different perspectives and different ways of viewing whatever it is that we're talking about, whatever it is that we're facing. And if we take the minute or two to listen, to really truly get curious about what they're saying, why they're saying it, about the perspective that they're bringing into it, about how they are putting pieces together in a way that we might not have thought of, then our job as a leader becomes to just draw all that out and see how different pieces might fit together so that we can create a new image, so that we can create something new that we hadn't thought of before, so that we can innovate, not because the pressure to create and to expand and to know it all is on us, but because as leaders, we are in a position to listen effectively, listen with curiosity, which invites people to share with us, right? Because I don't know if you've been in the situation, but when you are having a conversation with someone who is completely present, who is so involved in hearing you, in really listening to what you have to say, that makes you feel so comfortable and so welcome and so appreciated that it helps you open up and it helps you share at a different level. So, as leaders, when we invite those people in our tribe, those people in our sphere, in our team, whatever you want to call it, to connect with us, when we are really listening, when our only intention is to mine the gold that is in them, to really understand what it is that they're trying to convey, then that opens up a whole new world of possibility, and they share more openly because they're not afraid that you're going to ignore them or retaliate. They're not afraid that you're going to question why they're saying what they're saying or that you're going to be judgmental about it. They're not going to be afraid that they're going to be dismissed when they share something that is important to them. And therefore, they will be more open to share and to give you new insights and new perspectives on things, which will lead you to understanding the scope of whatever it is that you're talking about, the scope of your vision, the scope of your company, the scope of whatever it is of your family, to understand it a lot differently because you're looking at different perspectives and you're looking at different ways of interpreting and understanding what is in front of you. So, not listening is the cornerstone, the biggest of all the mistakes that we can make. And yes, the ones we're going to talk about next are important too. But this one, if we can just work on this one, which is why I put it first, if you take nothing else away from our conversation, just keep in mind that listening is an integral part of that communication piece. And that the more you become masterful at listening with curiosity, not listening to win, not listening to reply, not listening to get ammunition that you can throw back at the person, not listening to question, but listening to understand with curiosity, with, that's interesting. I want to understand that. I want to see where this goes. I want to ask questions that lead me to understanding them a little bit better. And I want to hold my commentary and withhold my judgment because I want to open the space for true interaction, true communication, and for listening in the most effective and powerful way. If you do just that, your interactions and your communications will be radically transformed in a positive way. So, mistake number one is not listening. Mistake number two is widening the gap. Widening the gap. What do I mean by that? When we are leading a group, doesn't matter what group it is, again, family, teams at work, church, it doesn't matter. You're a teacher, whatever the case may be. When we are attempting to lead a team, there is a certain level of authority that we are looking to garnish, right? We want the respect. We want them to pay attention. So we want them to trust us, right? We want to be credible in their sight, and we want to have a certain level of authority. And that even goes when we're leading ourselves, right? If I don't trust myself to do certain things, if I don't trust myself to be able to gain the understanding or have the credentials or have the ability, the skills, whatever that might be, to follow through and do what I need to do, I'm going to self-sabotage, right? But the problem is that in trying to gain that level of authority, in trying to feel like you have the credibility in front of your team to say these things or to do these things or to move them in in a specific direction, we start spewing out or trying to show that we know more than they do, that we are further along than they are, maybe that we have credentials that they don't have, that we have experiences that they don't have, that we have a resume of things that we bring with us that makes us suited to lead the team in that direction. The problem with that is that as we rely on credentials and experience and all these things that I mentioned, what we're doing is widening the gap between where we are and where our team is, the people that we're aiming to lead, right? And what that does is it creates in our team, in the people listening, in our audience, whether you're a speaker, whatever the case may be, it creates this notion that in order for me to do what you are doing, or in order for me to have the ability to get to where you are, I would have to have all these credentials or these certifications, all these years of study, all these years of experience. And there's no way that I can catch up with you because you got a head start on me. So what that does is it widens the gap to the point where the person on the other side says, you know what? I'll never be able to reach that level. So why even try? I'll just let you do it. I'll stay here in my little corner, or I'll retreat completely. And then they shut you off. They stop listening. They stop paying attention because they feel more and more inadequate the more they listen to you. So the key here is to understand two things. First of all, conviction is more important than credentials. Conviction is a lot more important than credentials. So if you've done your due diligence and you've studied and you've listened and you've done what you need to do, and you're convinced that what you're presenting is the right thing, and you're convinced that what you're saying is true, that will be enough for most people to buy into whatever you're saying. They might not fully agree, they might not fully understand it, but you come forth with such conviction that they will be drawn by that conviction, right? So that is the first thing, is conviction is more important than credentials. And the second thing is that trust is more important in building authority than any other tactic, training, experience, anything else. And how do you build trust? By actually doing what you said, by actually following through with the things that you say you're going to do. So the more you build trust with your team, the more you build trust with yourself, the more confidently you're going to step into the conversation, into the situation, and the more people are going to be open and willing to listen to what you have to say, follow through, and actually pay attention because they want to understand how to get from one end to the other, how to get from A to B in the way that you're presenting it. They want to learn from you, and they want to feel like they have the potential to soon sound like you, to soon be at the same level of conviction that you are, to soon be at that level of achievement that you've experienced. And you don't have to tell them everything that you've experienced and everything that you've achieved. You don't have to recite all your accolades and certifications and diplomas and all those things. You don't have to do that. Because guess what? When you show up with conviction and when you show up with the intention of building trust, then they are going to see in you someone that is worthy of being followed, someone that they are actually feeling comfortable with following and emulating and modeling after. And so the more you connect with them at the human level and let them know, look, I've been where you are, and I'm only here because I've gone a couple of steps further, right? Maybe because of my age, maybe whatever the case may be. But I've just been able to get a couple of steps further than you. But you can catch up, and I'm here to give you a hand to help pull you up. I'm here to mentor you and to support you. So instead of widening that gap of I'm the authority and you're over there, listen to me because I know. Don't even try to be like me because I'm just too fabulous. And I know that none of us think that, but that's the way we show up sometimes. So the more we're conscious of, okay, I need to bring conviction to the table. And I need to make sure that even if they don't believe what I believe, they believe that I believe it. And that's a quote I first heard from Ed Milet. I just want to give credit where credit is due, right? People don't need to believe what you say. They need to believe that you believe it. So if you show up with that level of conviction of, I know that this is at least one possible answer that is worth trying. I know that this will work. I know that this will yield the results. I know that this will take us. And you show up with that level of conviction, people will buy in because of your conviction, especially once they trust you, especially once they know that when you say something, you're going to follow through and you're going to do what you said you were going to do. Yes, so that's the second one. The first one was not listening. The second one was widening the gap. The third is having the wrong lens. When we are in a space where we are looking to lead, it is very tempting to focus on you, to focus on how you look, to focus on how you're perceived, to focus on what you bring to the table, to focus on what your decision-making process is, and even to focus on how you have done similar things in the past and bring all that as an integral, as the crux of the conversation, as the most important part of the conversation. And so when you start listening to yourself in any given experience of sharing with someone, of trying to lead a group, of trying to connect with someone so that you can bring them to the other side of whatever the situation might be, and you find yourself saying I too much, it's time to check your focus. It's time to check your lens. Because if what comes out of your mouth the most is I, then the other person is thinking, so why do I care if it's all about you? Or how does that relate to me if it's all about you? Or how can I implement this if it's all about you? Right? So having the wrong lens means that you're focusing too much inward instead of focusing outward. So the question is, what transformation can I help this person create? What new experience can I help this person live through or go through? What new understanding can this person gain from what I am sharing? And then focusing on their gain, their desires, their needs, their frustrations, their fears, what they get to win with, what they get to win with, how they get to win, more than focusing on what you bring to the table. Yes, it's important that you bring the right information. Yes, it's important that you show up powerfully. Yes, it's important that you come with a plan of what you're going to say. But ultimately, it's not about you, it's about them. If you can make it more about them than about you, then you're automatically going to draw them in and they're going to be more willing and more open to listen to whatever it is that you have to say, and not just listen, but do and move and implement. Right? So number one is not listening. Number two is widening the gap. Number three is having the wrong lens. And number four is no set intention for the communication. No set intention for the communication. What do I mean by that? Most of the time, especially if it's a meeting or a conference of some sort of whatever, we come at it thinking we're going to talk about blank, right? So we're going to talk about communication, or we're going to talk about leadership, or we're going to talk about marketing, or we're going to talk about this product that we're launching, right? And we think that that is the purpose of the conversation. Might be the purpose, but what is your intention? And that changes everything. What is it that you want to see accomplished by the end of the interaction that would make it feel like the interaction was fruitful, successful, and powerful, right? What is it? Are you looking to have everybody agree on the next step to take? Are you looking for everybody to walk away with a clear understanding of what role they play within a campaign or a task or whatever? Are you looking to leave with everybody agreeing to a possible solution to an issue? Are you looking simply to get it to a space where everybody has heard everybody else and there's an understanding of where everybody stands, even if there's no solution reached? What is the intention? What would make this conversation feel like a win for everybody and like it was a good investment of our time, our energy, our effort, our words, right? What would make this interaction a fruitful and successful one? And then what kinds of things do I need to avoid? And what kinds of things do I need to bring into this conversation to take it in that direction? That is intention. It's knowing where we want to go and what steps we're going to take to lead us towards that destination that we want to reach in that particular environment, right? Or in that particular interaction. There are very often times in which we enter a conversation where there is conflict or where there is a misunderstanding or where people are just not agreeing with each other for whatever reason. And we enter the conversation thinking that one conversation is going to solve an issue that has been going on for weeks or months. And that leads to frustration, disappointment. That leads to fights and to arguments and to more violence in the space. And I don't mean punching each other. I just mean like everybody feels tense and nobody feels like they're heard. And that is not fruitful. That is not productive. That is not positive. So the way we avoid that is by setting clear intentions that are one step or two ahead of solving this thing, right? Especially if it's something that has been going on for a while, you can't expect to solve it in one conversation, especially if they're time bound. If we only have an hour for this meeting, we can't expect to fix everything in an hour. So, what intention do we bring? Well, maybe in the first meeting, all we want is to make sure that everybody gets a chance to be heard so that we all start seeing where the other one is coming from. Then in the second one, maybe our intention in that one is to make sure that everybody understands where the other is coming from, even if they disagree, and maybe start thinking about possible ways to bring everything together. So maybe come up with a clear understanding of the common end result that we're all looking for, right? And then maybe on the third one, then maybe we find a solution. Maybe not, right? But it's incremental. And it's important for us to understand the actual intention for that particular interaction so that we can filter out what should be brought up, what should not be brought up, what should be said, what shouldn't be said, where we allow things to go and where we don't, right? Because if our intention is for everybody to have a chance to be heard and someone starts interrupting everybody else, we can't allow that. We have to set a boundary around that, right? And it's as simple as, okay, so and so, you have had or will have your chance to be heard. and I will make sure nobody interrupts you. So would you be so kind as to not interrupt anybody else? Right? And so we enter into the conversation with a clearer understanding of where we want to take it. And that way we can filter out what is unnecessary and we can focus on the things that will help us get closer to that particular intention. So the 4 biggest mistakes are not listening, widening the gap, having the wrong lens, or not setting clear, productive intentions, right? Reasonable intentions. And then I'm going to give you a bonus one. The other biggest mistake that leaders make in communication is thinking that they can improve just by trial and error, thinking that they can get this thing done on their own without any kind of support, when there is out there a lot of support to help you hone in and figure out your leadership communication and use it in the most powerful, productive, and effective way. And that's where I come in. So if you haven't done this yet, go to marciamara.com, click the schedule your free 30-minute confidence and clarity call, and schedule your time to chat. I can support you and I can help you in getting your leadership communication to the space where you bring the best out of your team, where you're no longer feeling like nobody's listening, where you're no longer wondering whether your message got through or not, and where you understand how to communicate with your team members in the most effective and most powerful way so that you end up going down the right path at the right time with the right people. Anyway, go ahead, go to marciamara.com, schedule your time, and I look forward to chatting with you and meeting you in person. So, did you get them? The 4 biggest mistakes. And I added a bonus 5th one, right? Not listening. So start listening effectively with curiosity, not to judge. Winding the gap. Shorten that gap between you and your team. The wrong lens is not about you, it's about them. Not having a clear intention. What do you specifically want from this one interaction? By the end of it, what would make it feel like a win for everybody? And then not getting support. There are ways to improve your communication, to become a master communicator in your space as a leader. So head on over to marciamara.com, set your time, and I will chat with you soon. In the meantime, if this has been helpful, share it with someone you love, and I'll see you next time here on Sincerely Speaking. Bye-bye. I hope you have found as much value and impact in this conversation as we found in creating it for you. If you have, then go ahead and share this with someone else in your life that you know might find it valuable. And in the meantime, don't forget about my offer to head on over to marciamara.com and schedule your free 30-minute clarity and confidence call. We will talk through all your dreams, all your plans, all your goals, the things that might be getting in the way. And if it makes sense for both of us, I might invite you to join me in one of my programs or one of my coaching packages, but there's no obligation, and I promise you that this will be the best 30 minutes you've spent in a long, long time. So again, head on over to marciamara.com, set up that time to chat, and I will see you on the other side. And in the meantime, share, subscribe, like, and I will see you next week here on Sincerely Speaking. Thank you.